You're listening to WKDW Radio 97.5 and KDWRadio.com, broadcasting from the Bishop West Real Estate Mobile Tower right here. And I've got to believe, absolutely gorgeous Northport, Florida today. We haven't had our daily rain, so not a whole lot going on. You guys will see somebody occasionally walking in the background. That's Elite. They're doing my bug treatment today. So Elite, if you ever need anyone out there to take care of you, these guys are awesome. Give Ray a call over there at Elite, and they'll do a great job for you. But I've got a very, very special guest in the house who's always trying to, I think, get people stirred up in the fact that Northport needs to get involved and they need to understand what's happening. And so I've got the very special Peter Bartolotta in the house today. How you doing, Peter?
Very good, John. How are you?
I'm not too bad. I know that last week we were talking about, or last month actually. I can't believe the months seem to fly right now.
Yeah,
we just go from one week to the next, and time just flies. But we were talking about how to get people involved, and it's funny that I had this conversation with Northport Forward. I'm just going to throw this at you because I don't know if you listened to the show or not. But we had a conversation about where to go, how to get people engaged. And, you know, he had pointed out that one of the things that they're doing is meeting at Old World. And I gave them a couple suggestions, maybe going to the baseball fields and hitting people where they're at the baseball fields, hitting people at the football games and the football fields, the soccer fields. We have got to get, I think, a grassroots effort in our city, because I don't know that we're going to do it any other way. Is that something that you're kind of thinking too?
Yeah, I totally agree. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to make that kind of the topic of today's show.
That'd be great.
As you know, the last time I was on, I introduced a website that I've created. For those of you that don't know me, I've been around this city for a long time. Came here in 1993. The population was 12,000. So it's changed a lot. So what I did is, with all the knowledge that I have and information I have, I thought it would be a good idea to post it on a website. I call it For, F-O-R, Northport.com. So it's FORNORTHPORT.com. And one of the sections in there is the YIM section, Y-I-M. And it means your ideas matter. And it gives you an opportunity for you to put an idea in. And we had one that said, how about a place where the private sector or the city could hold festivals? The location should be off I-75 to keep traffic to a minimum. That's a great idea. And, you know, everything starts with an idea. But I got an email because there was a contact. You can contact me. And I got an email, and I'd like to read some of it because I think it talks to the issue. And I won't give the person's name. We'll call him Tom for the purpose of this letter. It said, it's hard to feel my ideas matter with the current state of the governance in the city. Unless the commissioners agree on a goal that most of the city can get behind and actively support in the future, nothing will get accomplished. He then talked, he goes a little bit too much on the political side, but here was a comment he made. Those moving to the area will expect a city of 70,000 plus people with all of what that put in their minds. So when you think of a city 70,000 strong, you immediately think they have certain things.
Right.
Not an overgrown small town that's basically a bedroom community for larger metros that end up spending 2 hours a day commuting to work. As much as I like your last talk on the radio, I still see that, judging by the comments on the post, few people are listening. And then he goes on to say, the original residents of the city are really, and he talks a little bit in here, Bill English, he mentions you in a positive way. But the original residents of the city are really only interested in living out their golden years. The city needs jobs that support housing, et cetera, et cetera. But I thought the thing that struck me was it's hard to feel like his ideas matter. So and John, you'll remember this. I'm going to go back to the old Vision Northport days. And if you recall, we'd stand up in front of a group that at times was over 100 people in the room. And we'd say, what ideas do you have? There are no bad ideas. There's no good ideas. There's just ideas. And thank you for bringing that site up. These are some of the things that started at that meeting where somebody stood up, and I'm going to switch so I can see this on my screen. Somebody stood up and said, how about it? We need a place to go and spend the evening. And the regional entertainment district came out of that person's idea. They wanted more diversity in the restaurant dining, more upscale dining. The restaurant incubator came out of that idea. And both of those links, you can link to the actual artist renderings of what those places might look like. The citizen master plan came out of that, an equestrian center. A woman stood up and she said, there are places around the country, especially in Ohio, you might know about this, John.
Yep.
That there's a huge,
I actually remember the night that she brought that up.
That was Linda, remember?
Yep, I sure do.
And I never heard of this before, and I was fascinated by it. She said, people come from all over the country to this festival, and it's an equestrian festival, and we live in an equestrian town, if you think about it, with the estates. For those of you that are not familiar with it, the northern part of the city, that's all 3-acre plus properties, and it's a big equestrian community up there. The Workforce Development Initiative, a young lady wanted to know why. She had a vision of a domed building on I-75. I mean, she had it detailed. Canal races. How about, utilizing our canals for some entertainment? The Eco Fest. Everybody's interested in the environment and the ecology. How about an Eco Fest? We had over 15,000 people showed up at that. The Masquerade Ball. A lot of people don't realize it. That came out of Vision Northport. That started with Vision Northport. Festivals, the ambassador, and the list goes on. I encourage you to go to the website, take a look at some of them, and I will start adding, assuming we start getting some people interested in it. Otherwise, with all due respect, it's a lot of work. I don't mind doing it, but I want to make sure some people are listening. But if you look at the top of the page to the YIM, Your Ideas Matter, if you click on that, there's a little piece down there where you can enter your idea. And use just your first name. I don't care what your last name is. I mean, I think you have to put your email in, so at least we can verify it's not the same person sending in, different names. But just tell us what you think, and maybe we can start a conversation. And that's what the beauty of Vision Northport was. We created a forum for dialogue. There were no right or wrong answers. It was just ideas. And people would feel comfortable communicating their idea, and then some of the ideas fell through the cracks, others expanded and became very powerful and strong, and others just kind of just sat there. So anyway, what are your thoughts?
Well, and I'm gonna take a different angle today. I think I'm gonna ask you a few questions because I think one, we've been friends a long time. We know each other. Okay. So I feel very comfortable asking you these questions, because I think people are shutting down information because of past history, okay, and maybe misunderstanding of past history or whatever. I know that in when we first started doing these shows, you and I, there was a tone of frustration on your behalf. I remember that clearly. You're frustrated because you've seen the possibilities. You've envisioned them. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and this will clear the air for a lot of people, because you've actually said it on my show. I just want to get it up front. You're not looking for a job.
I'm retired. My wife Eileen hates it when I say this, but I'm going to say it. I'm 74 years old. I'm not looking forward to waking up every morning, putting a suit and tie on, and going to work. I'm sorry. I've got a good life right now.
And so the time that you're spending doing this, my question is why?
I love Northport. I really do.
So people who have misjudged you or judged you in the past, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt if they think that. Why should they work with you now?
It's not working with me. There is no me in this. This is just trying to get people interested enough to say, I have an idea about what Northport could be. I think the government at this point would relish and would embrace some of the ideas and get the citizens involved, the residents involved. We don't have much time left before the city is going to be built out and you won't be able to do anything. But right now we still can. So, I mean, I'm just trying to encourage people to stand up, give your idea. Don't expect anything back from it. Just put it out there. See where it goes. It's not an agenda. We're not trying to create an agenda. We're just trying to create a forum. And I think Northport Forward can really play a key role in that. And they're really the leaders in this. I put this site together more or less to share the knowledge that I have. It's got over 3 decades of knowledge about Northport and things that have worked and didn't work and what have you. Just putting them down for posterity, if nothing else.
Well, and I bring this up because I think if people would go back and watch or listen to the show, when you and Stephanie Gibson were both call-ins on the show, there ended up being common ground in that conversation. And I think a lot of the, and I'm not speaking for you, I'm not speaking for her at all. But what I was encouraged by during that show was that there were times that you guys were kind of on the same page and understood where you were going. And I think past history with a lot of people, I'm not saying Stephanie, but I'm saying with a lot of people out there, may prevent them from getting involved. And here's what I would ask of you. What's the harm of sharing an idea?
None. Well, I'll tell you what the harm is. And somehow, I don't know how we did it. I really don't. People don't like to share it because then their idea gets knocked down. And people don't want to, they're afraid to put themselves out there. And that's what you do when you put your idea out. And you've been in those meetings. You stood up. There might be 20 people in the room. There might have been 100. And you had to explain your idea. We put the ideas on a sheet of paper in the front of the room. And there might be 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 ideas on the board. And then we voted for 3. And 3 of those ideas we broke into groups, and they have 15 minutes to try to develop something out of that. So people were, what if my idea is not chosen? So what? There's next month. Come on down. and somehow we got over that because people were coming up with really good ideas.
I'm trying to figure out, and I did this with Vision Northport. We did this together. We did get people to break down and kind of knock the kind of the negative vibe out of the room. And I think it was because it was a lot of like-minded people who really wanted to see what they could do with the city as a blueprint of the city. I think we have a lot of people like that. The Stephanie Gibsons, the Chucks of the world. Everybody's got some really good insight, and they've got the drive to get their agenda accomplished. And I see the power in people. With what you've done with this website, though, it gives everybody an opportunity to throw their idea out there and to let them know what's going on and really not be judged. Yep.
Correct.
What do you, and I'm going to ask you this, what do you see at the end of the rainbow for you at this game right now by doing this website and trying to get the collective people in Northport kind of involved in one centered location just to share ideas? What are you going to gain?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Nothing. I don't get anything. I mean, what I would gain is I get excited when I see people talking about the future of Northport. I really do. I get turned on to that. It's exciting. You said before that, people like when Steph and I get together, that there's more alike. And what we all, me and Stephanie and Chuck, we all care about Northport. That's the common underlying, the basis, if you will, for the conversations. But I'll relate it to, we come to an agreement that we want to go to New York City. Everybody agrees to that. But there's a lot of ways to get there. I can take Amtrak. I can take I-95. I can go to California and stop over in Alaska and then fly over. I mean, I can go to the moon and then come back. There's a lot of ways to get there. So everybody agrees Northport's going to be this city of something, but we don't have agreement on the roads, on the paths to get there. I hear people talk about, the most important thing in government is transparency. And I understand the importance of transparency, but I also want a government that's getting things done. They can be very transparent, and transparency costs money and takes a lot of time. So where do you want to spend your time and money? So there's a balance. I'm not saying one's right or wrong. It's just, where's the balance? There's got to be something at the end that we're getting somewhere. We're moving in a direction. And that's where I think we're lacking in Northport. There's nobody really standing up and taking a direction. So what I'm hoping to come out of this is enough ideas get put on the table. Northport Forward is the group that brings the people physically together. And when you start bringing ideas together, the next thing that starts to happen is leadership starts to emerge. And that leadership can take the form of elected officials. It can take the form of nonprofit leadership. It can take lots of different forms. Radio hosts. I mean, look at the job you're doing. And would that have happened?
Never envisioned this back in those days.
Yeah. And would it have happened if Vision Northport didn't exist? I don't know.
I'm not real sure myself.
I don't know.
I've actually tried to break that down to see because there are things that and this is maybe the encouraging part for people. There are things that I learned about the city of Northport because I was involved, or I should say my wife and I were neck deep into that process.
You were higher than that, but go ahead. You were deeper than that.
I know that. At some point, I was way up there. But it's realizing that the knowledge that you gain from just being involved at any level, the gentleman that wrote the email to you, along with the idea that's on the website. They have nowhere to go to do that other than what you've done to give them that platform. Yeah. So you got two voices because you made a website that asks for insight. So the reason I wanted to start out with what's in the game, okay, is that's always the question people ask. What's he going to get out of it? Well, stop thinking, what are you going to get out of it? Because here's the thing, and you correct me if I'm wrong. If you don't put your input in, you're going to get what you're going to get without your input, without your vision, without any insight whatsoever. You're still going to get what you're going to get.
Yeah.
Based on what the businesses are trying to do to provide it. If you provide your ideas and one of them catches on, you just changed the city.
That's right.
And maybe for the good. I got to believe that anything other than the pattern of, and I'm going to say this because it's not a commissioner's job to block all the mattress stores and all the car part stores and all the auto part repair places. It's ironic that we have them now. And I drove down Toledo Blade this morning, and the two that are open on Toledo Blade, or three even, they're not busy. We have 70,000 people in our town, but I'm also watching the car part stores, they're not cranking out crazy numbers either. When I was a kid, I was at the car part store all the daggone time. Okay.
Yeah.
Those cars, they don't hold up. They didn't hold up like they do today.
Yep.
Okay. So I pay attention to these things, but other things are coming. They're going to come. And the influence that the community that is involved, a community that is involved, does that change the future of a city if the community itself is involved and says, well, hold on, wait a minute. And let's say we've got 10,000 voters that make an impact on the website. Does that change the impact of what's happening?
Well, of course. And if you go again on the website, your northport.com, for northport.com, and there's a on the top you'll see NPEDC. That's the Northport Economic Development Corporation, which I helped form. And there's a slide that says the initiatives, the strategy. And if you go to that, towards the bottom, one of the last slides in there is a quote from David Jones, who was the principal of Northport High School and was also a Northport EDC member. And he said, and I quote, "Cities change because people, you and me, of vision and commitment come together to dream the future." So I think that answers your question.
It does.
That's how it happens. That's how things change to, it's on the top, Marie, Northport EDC, NPEDC. Click on that and then scroll, and it says a strategic plan, the first blue there. Click on that and scroll all the way down. So, that's the change that's needed. If nobody dreams it, if nobody has an idea about what's going to happen, it's not going to happen. And my wife had a double lung transplant, and I joke about it, but I'm serious when I say, how did they even come up with this? I mean, two docs sitting around talking and saying, "Hey, I got an idea. What if we take a lung out of a dead person and put it in a person who's got bad lungs?" Hey, that's a great idea. Nobody worried about how they were going to do it. It starts with the idea that we're going to do something.
Correct.
And then you start figuring out how to do it. And when you look at some of the plans on Vision Northport, that's kind of how it started. It was like, why don't we have more, upscale restaurants? Well, upscale restaurants follow the population and the upscale income. So if you don't have the upscale income, how else can you get it? And I mirrored, we had a conversation about that. And I looked at one of what I think is a great upscale Italian restaurant, La Rocca, which is right off of on 41, right past Ortiz. Great Italian food. But, he can't, to get into the center of town is so expensive. So the whole idea of a restaurant incubator came about from that one person. And that one person was, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a mental blank. Kyle Curtis, the owner and founder of Kyle Curtis, had that idea. That's how it started. And it turned into a restaurant incubator because one person has the idea, multiple people contribute to it. And guess what? Great things can come from it. So
Absolutely.
It changes because of one person, and you can be that one person. Anybody sitting in the audience today can be that one person. All it is an idea. And look at what Lewis wrote down on his idea. I mean, it was not a lot of detail.
And that would be Amy Schultz, the owner of
Amy. Yep. I'm sorry, Amy. I'm so sorry. I forgot. Jeez, I never forget her name. But I'm on radio and I'm nervous. But look at what this guy Lewis wrote. How about a place where the private sector or the city could hold festivals? That's his idea. It wasn't detailed. It wasn't a lot. It's just, there's an idea. Throw your ideas out.
Well,
And there they go.
and I got to tell you, he probably is not alone in his idea.
No, like
And
my
the only way that we can get people together in this town, we don't have a lot of access to group meetings, to media coming in, and the rah-rah and the committees. And there's only one way to do that in a city like ours, and that's building grassroots, right?
Yeah, and the one common ingredient that every single person who lives in Northport, and I'll virtually take this to the bank and guarantee it, every single person in Northport has an idea of something they would like to have in Northport. It could be a roller skating rink. It could be a bowling alley. It could be an entertainment mecca. It could, whatever it is, we all have an idea. How many times have you said, and I think I say it on the page, did you ever think, I wish Northport had that? If you've never said that, I don't believe you live in Northport.
I'm going to throw it out there because for 22 years I've been here. And for 22 years, I've said, we all drive away, not just to go to work. We all drive away to go to dinner.
Yep.
We all drive away to go for entertainment.
Yep.
There are, I can't even name the places to go that are very similar to being on the water with live music in Northport. I really don't believe we have any live music in Northport.
Old World does.
On occasion.
On occasion, yes.
On occasion. But what I'm talking about is a venue that people flock to.
Yep.
Old World, I'm going to give them credit because they've been around a long time.
Yes, they have. And they've really changed with the times.
They have the ability to, I think, and I believe, cater, and I'm not going to pick on them because this is their job. Their job is to cater to their clientele. Their clientele is older. We live in a town where the average age is 42. I even gave us credit the other day at 47. I got corrected. But when you're 42 and the 42-year-olds are driving away, not just to go to work, but driving away to spend the evening out, I think one has to sit back and realize that you're not actually saying anything that's not accurate. Every single one of those people are going to want something in Northport.
And this is, I think, really a key point. Like I said, everybody who lives in Northport, for that matter, everybody who lives anywhere in the world, has an idea of what they would like to have.
Yep.
Okay. Wouldn't it be nice if we had that?
Yep.
So with that idea, what happens is you're interested in a place to go that has live entertainment. Maybe I'm not, but maybe Joe is. So what happens is you guys start coming together. I want a place for something that does something different. Those people come together. We're still coming together as a community on how do we make our community better. But the ideas, it all starts with the ideas. That's what drives the process. And then
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to add something in or ask you a question. When you can gather people with like-minded ideas, whether it's idea 1, idea 2, idea 5, idea 7, when you gather all those people and you have momentum pushing the agenda of ideas forward, I want you to talk a little bit about that because that happened in Vision Northport. Yep. When the momentum was stirring at an all-time fever high, what happened within that group?
I don't want to get political, but one of the biggest things that occurred, in my opinion, was, and it was the last the last event I really worked on, we had a debate, a commissioner debate. Vision Northport hosted it. 300 plus people showed up. They took over the city hall, the commission chambers in room 244, and they were in the lobby. Okay. They've never had that. Fred Tower said, I've never seen that many people before unless we were raising taxes. So what happened is all those little ideas were important, but everybody was part of something bigger. And they got involved at the political side, which ultimately is what has to happen. So when you've got these ideas going and you start seeing some excitement going, people start getting excited about the city. And the next thing you know, somebody's going to stand up and say, hey, I can help get us there. And I'm going to run for office. And it starts to encourage. It just starts to permeate everybody's well-being and everybody's personality and everybody's image of Northport. And the next thing you know, when you're out talking with people outside of Northport, you've got people talking positively about the city and its potential. Not talking about this government or that government, or they made a wrong decision here. Everything is on the negative side. It gets very positive and proactive. And that's all I'm looking for is to can we rekindle some of that? And I think we've got a good group in Northport Forward that can really take this and drive it up even further. And I'm just one person. And if I can help that happen, great. If it doesn't, I mean, all I'm doing is trying.
Well, and I put Chuck's question back up, Marie. Chuck had suggested that you and Mel Thomas get together and have a discussion. I would love to host that and get you guys both on the show together.
I love it.
Because I've talked to her. I think her vision is very positive, and she's a very positive person. And I can't see that she would be frustrated by having more citizen involvement. Is there something that I'm going to ask Chuck, if there's something I'm missing there, let me know. Because I think he's really been a vital part of listening and really being involved in conversations. And I love his insight because he's got a different way of looking at things. But at the end of the day, he's just another guy that wants Northport to be awesome and to move forward. Go ahead.
What is it? Does he see me and Mel on the same page, or does he see us as on different pages?
And that is my question, Chuck. Are they on the same page, or do you think that there's a difference between the two outlooks on where this is going? Because that is key. Because that's the stigmatism I'm trying to knock down right now. Because I don't think there's an agenda. There's nothing hidden here. It's trying to get people. The beauty is that we're asking Chuck for input about a website that you're asking people for input on, and nobody's being critical. I think it's awesome that the fact that he's giving input on the same page. There you go. Perspective. I love it. So his answer was no. I think they're pretty much on the same page, just a different perspective on how to get there. And you know what? I can take 3 different roads to my house, but I still get there. So ideas are just like roads. You just have to take the road of choice. If you got people out there that are going to a party and they're all going 3 different ways, they're all going to make it to the party. The thing is if we don't get people talking and we don't get people centrally located and get the city as far as representation from the citizens, that is the biggest part of the problem that we face every day, is that we don't have citizen involvement at a level that's respectable to anyone, not let alone here, but elsewhere. And until we get citizens who are understanding, you vote and I'm not saying we did, but let's say you vote the wrong person in. Can your taxes go up? Yep. But if you're not involved, nobody's going to know. Nobody's going to care. And the only time that people really get upset, and you said it best, is that when things happen like a tax rate increase, and then they all go berserk. Well, it's too late. You already didn't vote once. That's called different leadership styles, and Peter knows about the Myers-Briggs Assessment. What's the Myers-Briggs Assessment?
Who wrote this?
That came from WKDW 97.5.
Okay.
I want to believe that's primary.
Okay. Yeah, the Myers-Briggs is a test that categorizes people in terms of their natural tendencies in leadership. So you've got real aggressive people. You've got very behind the scenes people. I forget all the details of it now. But what was the question now? We all have different leadership styles, and you're right. It's different leadership, and whatever gets you to the end result is where we need to be. What I think is lacking is, does anyone know where we're going? I can't get an answer to that question. And, and I look at the ULDC, and why are we even reviewing the ULDC if we can't define where we're going? I mean, think about it. We're putting code in place, and we don't even know what we want the future to look like. So does the code support the vision? And if you don't have the vision, you don't know if the code supports it. So when you read these documents, our ULDC is code. That's what it is. When you cut through everything.
Let me ask you a question. Would you say that the more that you clutter the code, the harder it is to project the future?
I don't. I think it's impossible to project the future. It's like saying, okay, we're going to take a trip to New York. Okay, and we're in a place called 42nd Street and 7th Avenue. Now let's figure out how we're going to get to New York. Okay, you're already there, so you're going to build code on something that's we're not standing still. The world is moving all around us, so you need to develop that with a goal in mind.
Well, let me ask you a different way. If we build our code to a point where it harms growth, is that going to be a problem in the future?
It's already there. There are developers that don't want to come to Northport because it's too complex.
And the truth of the matter is that if anyone went from business to business to business on the new build in Northport, all they have to do is walk new build to new build, each model home. The problem, the model homes, they don't want to come forward. They don't want to because guess what? The minute they complain, their permits slow down.
That's right.
They can't get corrections. They can't get these things. I'm going to tell you that there is a problem. It's a huge problem when you can go across the border and you can build 4 houses before you can get one built in Northport. And those builders are having that problem today. It is that problem. And if we continue to clutter the codes, we're essentially going to make our city pay for it in the end, and it's going to be paid for by the landowners.
Yeah, people forget that we keep trying to put codes in place that will protect whatever it is we're trying to protect. But every community you go to, everywhere in the United States, there's something called a variance where a builder can come forward and ask for a change for his particular project. And they make changes. It's done all the time. It's not a unique thing. I think you have to start by understanding, and I went through this process. I mean, I really did. I started off with, Northport Economic Development Advisory Board. That turned into the Business and Economic Development Advisory Board, government run. That turned into the Northport EDC, which was a private EDC. You cannot have a plan for a city without actively involving the private sector, because the city doesn't do anything. It doesn't build anything.
Right.
Okay. The private sector is the one. Now you've got to, and I read it the other day, I forget what it's called, but there's a new 20,000 resident development going in north of us. Okay. It's a developer coming in. They're going to have 20,000 residents. I don't know if you saw it it was on the Business Observer. Just north of us. It's going to happen all around us. Why aren't we talking to those people on how to get some of this stuff done? Get the private sector involved. The private sector is going to make money. That's why they're in the private sector. That's what they do. For the people who are against that, I'm sorry, but the restaurant owner, the auto repair shop, everybody's in business because they want to earn a living. Okay, there are corrupt auto repair shops, and they're really legitimate auto repair shops. In every single walk of life, there are good and there are bad. So align yourself with the good, and come up with some solutions.
I'm gonna point this out. We're talking about what we look like as a town and how we're going to look. We don't have a car dealership in the city of Northport. It got shut. It got turned away. Several of them have. Your point is they're going to build around us. Right on our border is where you can go to buy a car.
That's right.
Okay? You can't do it in Northport.
And the border, and wherever that is, that community gets the tax revenue.
They do. And so and they get the jobs. Yes.
And by the way, John, that is code. Northport code does not allow a car dealership in place.
Well, that's I not that I brought that up for a reason, but I knew it was there.
Yeah.
And therein lies a lot of the issue with the vision of where we're going. So is it that we don't want the car dealerships here? And that's why we did it, 60 years ago?
I don't know what the reason was, but that's what is. So, that speaks volumes to writing code before you have a plan and a vision. So, I think you start with that. Then you build your code to support the vision. Okay? You don't do it the other way around. And I think that's why we're in this conundrum with our ULDC right now. We keep changing it and trying to bring it up to speed and I think it's just totally screwed up, and it needs to be just revamped, throw it out and get a whole new set in here that makes some sense and keep it minimal. But now, and here's what people need to understand. Code is code. The leadership of the city can drive the kind of development that we want here. But you got to know what you want. It's not the code that's going to do it. What the code is doing right now is hindering. People are they're looking at Northport, and I'll tell you what happens. When a developer looks at a city and they look at land, the next thing they look at is what's the regulations. And if the regulations are overwhelming like they are with Northport, they just move on. You don't even know they were looking at you. They just move to the next place. There's so many opportunities around. We're not the only game in town. Probably for the next 500 years, we won't be the only game in town. So it's not like these guys just moving. Now, the day will come where, we will have whatever we've got, and then they'll want to come in here. But right now, they could care less. There's plenty of opportunity, as evidenced by a new development going up 20,000 homes of residents. That's 10,000 homes. Hello.
Yep.
Put it in perspective. The West Villages was built out of 30,000 residents. This is 2/3 of that.
And they're going to find a way.
They're going to find a way.
And the luxury that this area has right now is if one area or one city doesn't want it, they'll build it anyway. It will just go somewhere else.
We'll go somewhere else. So,
and then all of our people, for 22 years, we all been driving away. If we keep the same path that we're going right now, 22 years from now, we're all going to be saying we're driving to Port Charlotte to go to dinner.
Yeah. So I think the message is, let's start getting ideas. Let the people with ideas start coming forward and sharing their ideas with us. Hopefully out of that group will come some leaders. And will come some ideas that are worth pursuing. The government says, hey, we want to do that. That sounds good. And let's figure out a way to make this happen, because Northport has great potential.
So I'm gonna kind of hook this together with the new city manager. Do you think at some point the new city manager will look at citizens incubators for ideas and maybe utilize some of this information for what he's trying to do with the city too?
The one thing I've learned, if I've learned nothing else, in the 30 years I've been at this, the city manager isn't the guy that's going to make those decisions. It's the commission that will. Because the city manager reports to 5 people. And their job is to try to keep that guy happy. Now, this new city manager, Jason, right, is coming in from the D.C. area. So he's packing up his family, moving down here, bought a house, I guess. He's not going to go sticking his neck out. Why should he? And then winds up losing his job. So the leadership, you might think it's the city manager, but they're going to play it as safe as they can. You know, you might get somebody that'll stretch a little bit, but for the most part, they've got to be careful. Your city commissioners decide whether that person keeps his job or doesn't keep his job. And so don't expect miracles with the city manager coming in. These guys know the game. City managers last 5 or 6 years. That's it.
And if they do manage to turn the town around, we don't keep them very long.
And no, what happens is if they do turn, well, if they turn it around, you know, you've had some people, Jim Lay, as a Sarasota County administrator, lasted 15, 20 years. So then, but you got to have a commission that the city manager and the commission are on the same page. And if you don't have revenue coming into the city, if there's not an income source other than the backs of the taxpayers, somebody is going to be in trouble. And last time I looked, it's rarely the elected officials. There's always a staff guy they can throw under the bus. Okay. And they're going to be worried about getting reelected. So, you know, the trick is get good city. If you think the city is moving in the right direction, reelect everybody. If you think that we need change, get people in that will create the change that you want. It's very simple. But you got to get people to run. So I think by getting ideas out there, we start to surface some of those potential.
Well, and you know, at the end of the day, it's really just trying to push ideas forward so that I got to believe it, that you get the enthusiasm of the city to out of where we are right now. The people who are active, I don't care whether you're active on either side of this conversation, because I've talked to people on both sides of this conversation, and as long as they're active, I'm okay with active. I may not like all the ideas that come out of it, but at the end of the day, I'm really more upset with the inactivity from citizens, and they walk around and they're the first ones to complain, but then you ask them if they even voted, and they didn't. I mean, we have got we've got to get people to understand that involvement just starts with a vote and an idea.
Well, and that's the key. The average person doesn't have the time that you and I have on our hands, right?
Obviously.
But seriously, we've been doing it so long that that we happen to have a lot of knowledge. Okay. But somebody getting into it firsthand, it's really tough. So how do you do it? You spoon feed. Everybody has an idea. What's yours? And it's not good or bad. My idea, I don't care. With the EDC's plan, I said, that's the EDC's plan. What's yours? I'm not saying it's the only one. There's probably 100 different ways you can go in Northport. That's the only one I've seen. But what's yours? So with ideas, let's bring the ideas forward. There's your entry into the process. And it's digestible.
Would Atwater Park, the ball fields, would they have been built without an idea?
Nothing happens without an idea.
With the pool just went up. There was no idea.
No, Joan Morgan had an idea, and Joan Morgan fought for decades to get that pool. Well, so she had the idea, and she drove the agenda. There's an example of a resident, good, bad, or indifferent, drove it.
And quite frankly, I don't care about the good, bad, or the different. Okay, because really, it shows that it can be done.
Yes.
And there isn't anything that happens within this city, not anything, that doesn't start with an idea. Nothing.
Right.
I really want to encourage people.
What comes after the idea?
Action.
The plan.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what you want. Here's what we plan on how we get there. And there might be multiple roads on how to get there, but now you have a plan. And then you execute. So
the two guys that chimed in already, or two people who chimed in, I don't know whether guys or girls, the two people who chimed in already, that's a start. That is a start. Everybody is putting a lot of stock in the new study. The review on comprehensive plan should have come first and the code second. Now it's got to do a reverse and bring the comprehensive plan to the new code rather than vice versa. Cart before the horse. Yeah, it's garbage, actually. You could just say it's garbage. To anybody who works an idea backwards, I think we're foolish. And the reason we're getting looked at the way we're getting looked at up and down the coast is we're doing things backwards. I agree with you, Peter, on the fact that I wish people would tell me what the vision is. Stop writing code. Stop doing this crap that you're doing because you have an agenda.
So here's a thought, John. Every time you bring a commissioner on, ask him, give me 10 minutes. I'll give you 10 minutes. Paint the picture of what you see Northport looking like in 10 years. Just let him paint a picture.
All right, I think better than that. I think every commissioner should vow to stop writing code until they have a plan for the future.
Yeah. And actually, the way it works is the comp plan is first, and then the ULDC does support. It's supposed to support the comp plan. Now, it doesn't always happen that way. It's selective. They decide. So anyway, I won't go into a lot of detail on that, but the comp plan, what drives that is the vision. Paint the picture.
And I just looked down at the clock, and we've got to go.
Oh, it's that time again. Okay.
That was fast. But this is John Rawlings with WKDW Radio 97.5 FM and KDWRadio.com with Peter Bartolotta saying thank you so much.
Go to For Northport, FONNorthport.com. Give us your ideas.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you so much for your time. I appreciate everything. You guys drive safe on the way home. We'll talk to you soon. Stay live, Peter, for one more second. Now we're still live on Facebook. I'm off the